Hello everyone, Ryan here. So I recently saw the movie Hidden Figures, and it is the untold story of Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, three brilliant African-American women who worked at NASA and served as the brains behind the launch into orbit of astronaut John Glenn. And so yeah, much of this movie does take place during the 1960s, and it was around that whole time when the United States was in competition with Russia to launch the first man into space. Of course, Russia ended up being, or rather back then they were still called the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union ended up launching the first man into space, and that then prompted NASA to really pump up their efforts. And what actually ended up happening was, these different people, women like Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, they actually helped with a lot of the math and the technical stuff. Katherine Johnson herself was it was remarkable. I mean, to me, that she was able to calculate and formulate all these incredibly complex equations, and because obviously, in order to work at NASA, you have to be very skilled at math, so incredibly skilled at math. I remember when I was a little boy, I used to want to actually become an astronaut, but then obviously as I got older I realized exactly what that entails. And even just to work at NASA, not as an astronaut, but just to work as an engineer or in some other department, it definitely takes a lot of work, takes a lot of math and science, and so math's never been one of my strong suits. But for people like Katherine Johnson, I always admire these kinds of people who can calculate large amounts, large sums, and long, drawn-out formulas, and So there is a lot of that. There is a lot of math stuff in this movie, but it doesn't go too in depth. It mostly focuses on the people. Of course, these three women. Dorothy Vaughan, she actually ends up figuring out how this IBM computer works, because that's back when NASA, they get their first IBM computer, and she actually takes it upon herself to figure out how to set it up, how to work it, and how to program it to calculate certain things. And she becomes very adept at it. The other girl, Mary Jackson, she decides that she wants to apply for a job as an engineer at NASA, but in order to do that, she has to take some night classes at a local high school. And unfortunately, she's not able to because it happens to be like an all-white school. So she ends up having to petition the court, and she goes to court, speaks with a judge, and the judge luckily gives her the okay, and she goes and eventually becomes an engineer. Really, there isn't a whole lot else to the story. I will admit, even though this is an awesome true story and pretty inspiring, there are some stuff in it that I felt like maybe it was just added just to extend the movie a little, which I guess in a case like this is really not a bad thing, but just more of an obvious thing. Ultimately, I would say I definitely give this movie a solid 8 out of 10, definitely. And then, of course, I also enjoyed that this movie includes a lot of original footage from, John Glenn's original orbit and launch and landing. Yeah, I like seeing that. I like seeing rockets take off, and I think I could watch footage of rockets taking off for like several hours at a time. Yeah, though I haven't really ever done that, but maybe someday I will. Yeah, but yeah, again, I did give it 8 out of 10. Another thing too, definitely most of the acting throughout this is pretty great. Solid acting. I got no complaints. Kevin Costner is also in this. He plays like this one head guy of this particular department, and yeah, he gives a pretty good performance as well. All around, it's an inspiring movie, and I do believe everybody should watch this. Especially if you have, young kids, or young girls who want, someone to look up to. I would say, yeah, definitely these 3 women are pretty inspiring. So, I mean, they've inspired me to at least attempt to refresh myself on some mathematical stuff, mathematical equations. Yeah. I don't know. So thanks for watching this review. Once again, 8 out of 10 for Hidden Figures. Well, that'll do it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, till next time, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.